Hello everyone and welcome to our Playing Through Revolutions September 2017 series of audios and videos intended to further politely warn you strongly against voting this October 2017, but to instead join us in demanding an indigenously well-informed and well-organized national convention at which representatives from all of our major social groupings, well qualified and orderly selected, will assemble for weeks to boldly, openly and constructively present and debate all of the dangerously deep-seated and bloody problems and issues of this country, to collectively find lasting solutions, design new order of things in society, craft new working systems and corresponding institutions, while legitimizing an interim arrangement excuse to replace the current illegitimate Ellen Johnson Sirleaf's government. Please access our many Playing Through Revolutionary articles from different sites and locations on the internet, including https://website.facebook.com/playingtruth2013 for more details and clarifications on these many life-saving arguments. Before enlisting to you the 5 audio or videos that constitute this second batch of our voice recorded messages to this Liberian public and the world over, with the first batch of 6 huge files spanning a combined total of 27 hours, which we published in March 2017 and which are currently at https://rs.gd/pmlv_u0. And before announcing to you the title of this particular video that you are about to listen to, we'd like to inform and encourage you first off that because of our strong desire to see that these messages are clearly understood, or that these messages go through, and because of our deep awareness that we are on a revolutionary campaign and not on a mere information dissemination move or a mere academic exercise, our articles, captions and topics are long enough where necessary, far above convention, since we vow not to sacrifice the clarity of our messages to mere convention or formality. So please bear with us in this direction, and rather concern yourselves more with understanding the main themes of these titles and captions than the formality that accompany them. Having said that, the 5 new videos or audios that we have produced to inform and guide all of our activities, inclusive of how we keep pushing our revolutionary case against LPRC, and then our friendly civic injunction against anything called elections or casting ballots for American Liberia, or casting ballots during this very harsh month of October, just to prolong the sufferings and the premature aging and early deaths of our poor people, our suppressed people, are as follows. Again, we're saying these are the 5 new videos that we've brought up this September to talk about October elections, to talk against October's elections. And the new videos are as follows. Number 1, Liberia's widespread criminal scams under the guise of carrying out infrastructural rehabilitation. Again, Liberia's widespread criminal scams under the guise of carrying out infrastructural rehabilitation. A case study of LPRC from 2005 to 2017. Number 2, we dare the U.S. Embassy in Monrovia to respond to our well-documented claim that America is the biggest source of all of our problems, both individual and collective, in this country. Video number 3, entitled Why Do We, the Playing Through Revolution, Talk the Way We Talk and Act the Way We Act. Video number 4, if God allows an American Liberian Ellen Johnson Sirleaf to ever author and usher any peaceful, credible and sustainable democratic transition, then he is mocked. And God forbid our God of Almighty is never mocked. Video number 5, LPRC, EJS, GOL and U.S. Embassy keep paying deaf ears to our legitimate demands, exposing the Kartees to great danger and the sad fate of the likes of Michael Allison, Harry Greaves, etc. But 1 inch of harm to any of us, family members or revolution members, will lead to catastrophic ethnic violence, which will drag into an ultimate third world war to be inflicted by God, not us. That's the end. That's video number 5. And with your knowledge of these 5 new audios or videos of ours, we do now proudly welcome you to video number 2, which is entitled, "We Dare the U.S. Embassy in Monrovia to ever respond to our well-documented claim that America is the biggest source of all of our problems, both individual and collective, in this country." And this video continues thus. We say, after having been sensing naturally from early childhood that educated citizens owe a much greater moral obligation to solving the problems of their society, after having been growing up with what I will call here a preconceived notion or preconceived mentality that the essence of going to school is to become a mechanic technician, for societal problems rather than being a parasite on society. After having developed or after having been developing naturally in mind without any formal education yet, or without ever being told from the pages of book yet, that socialism and its economic communism offer the best of the best approaches to developing the individual and making society to work well in everyone's best interests. After having been nurturing or maturing through both natural inclinations and formal education, that widespread innovation and the unleashing of massive entrepreneurial potentials backed strongly by government support at every level, including the insurance of an enabling environment and a level playing field for the incubation, start-up, growth, sustenance and competition of businesses and enterprises, etc., are the only best formulas for the growth and development of any society, etc., etc. I became a lost ball in highways at the so-called Liberia Petroleum Refining Company, where I had gotten my first and only yet formal job employment status in life. As this company, meaning its higher ups and their overall governing authority, which is the government of Liberia, and by extension the entire American Liberian society, look at business, economics, and life in general from a quite different angle as compared to mine. These are the experiences that we had that have brought us this far. But despite this huge difference in perspectives about economics and life, I still needed to make LPRC my home for the simple natural reasons that I needed to work, feed myself and my family, learn more, gain more experience and exposure, and then begin the process of change from a broader societal perspective from right within LPRC. That's how come at LPRC, as I climbed the ladder of management and administration, I approached things in a more revolutionary fashion to ensure sustainable change first at the entity, while also developing my own private sector dream under the auspices of the Innovative Farmers Enterprises, or IFEN Incorporated, an ambitious private corporation that I had established as an employedpreneur. That's the slang we use for someone who's employed at the same time being an entrepreneur, based on the seriousness of the health and nutrition deficiencies that I had discovered within my society, and thus wanted IFEN to adequately address. That is, as a unique selling position for IFEN to be able to orderly and systematically take food items with more emphasis on fruits and vegetables to each home's doorsteps as much as possible for profit, instead of keep seeing a 195-year-old society wherein people are compelled as the only option to go to traditional physical marketplaces to search for everything they want, down to basic food and nutrition items. Please find and listen to our Plane to Revolutions video or audio track entitled "Looking a Little More into Our LPRC January 2013 Bogus Dismissal Experience that Proudly Gave Birth to the Plane to Revolution" for more details on my experience at LPRC in these directions. And then read the acknowledgement portion of one of our giant revolutionary pamphlets entitled "Why is this case considered a revolutionary and game-changing one for our country?" in parentheses Liberia, for little details about the first few steps that were taken by IFENT before the suspension of its complete rollout process to make room for the bigger societal cleanup project under the banner of the Plane to Revolution. Since it became more obvious through my experience and exposure at LPRC that none of these big dreams of mine for our public companies like LPRC and then private businesses like IFENT, etc., will ever work if society itself remains very dirty and in fact dead as ours is, unfortunately. So with all of the huge ambitions we had at the job site to see things change at LPRC, and our own personal dreams to develop this kind of innovative ideas to take food to people's doorsteps, all of these things had to be suspended for us to give room to a much bigger societal cleanup project under the Plane to Revolution, based on these initial experiences that we had. We go on to say, having said that, or having said all of the above, based on the level of consciousness that my LPRC American Liberian bosses now saw in me, which now grew by the day, as was reflected in my work habit, approach to handling issues, and responses to challenges at hand, etc., all of which went contrary to American Liberian understanding and vision of life, and your modus operandi, I became a high-class target of my LPRC bosses, and by extension, the government of Liberia. As you will discover more if you attempt to access the reference materials provided you here and go through them. Based on these realities, my LPRC top management, with the backing of the board of directors and some presumed support of the executive mansion, came up against me, using less than 24 hours to draw up some corruption allegation against me and hand me some dismissal letter within this very short period of time, after I had served the company for up to 10 unbroken years and risen from a janitor to a departmental managerial level, or departmental manager level. But interestingly, LPRC's January 25, 2013 single-page dismissal letter for this less than 24-hour initiated and executed employment termination process was delivered to me with very serious errors that make it so fake outrightly, including a very nonsensical allegation and completely mistaken or misrepresented dismissing authority. And upon the delivery of this letter to me, I was threatened by the dismissing authority to get out of the company's premises or facility right away, or else be dragged out by the company's security forces, even though the same LPRC went to the newspapers at the close of the same January 2013, just 5 days after their action, and categorically denied ever terminating the employment of any Roland Kartee. With the search for redress to this great ordeal undoubtedly requiring probes into such things as LPRC's motives behind this action, taking into account what corporate debates were in the air at the time, which I was personally involved with. B. the speed with which the action was taken. C, the condescending nature of the action on the part of those we have all been regarding as corporate leaders that deserved our respect. And D, the processes employed in this action. And E, why was the action in fact denied categorically by the LPRC authorities themselves in the newspapers just 5 days later, specifically in the People's Newspaper edition of Wednesday, January 30, 2013, under the story titled LPRC Dispels Media Report, etc. Again, all of which have been elaborated upon in our reference materials if you ever have the courage to access and go through them. So we said all of these issues were the motivating forces for why we attach so much importance to this particular case. Our first step to this redress process or endeavor has been to first handle the issue of this one-page dismissal letter, since without any argument, this single-page communication lays the very foundation of the company's argument and action, which by extension and by the standards of how things work in this place is also the foundation of the executive mansion's action against us, because they do things with the explicit backing of the executive mansion, and the foundation of the entire government of Liberia's action against us. We're looking at all of these things to be linked together. It was a whole chain. This single page letter is also the physical evidence that authenticates our claim that we were ever once sacked by an American Liberian LPRC, etc. These are all the importance we attach to this single page dismissal letter. We say it is this letter that laid the foundation for all of these experiences, LPRC's action, which by extension is the government of Liberia's action, which also means the executive mansion's action, and backed by America's action, because all of these people work hand in hand to have situations here as they are against us. Ladies and gentlemen, it is this very first step of getting this clearly erroneous and flawed dismissal letter, which LPRC herself duly acknowledged during the very month of her action, in which everyone who sees it at first glance, for that matter, including all her backers, meaning LPRC's backers, like the executive mansion, the entire government of Liberia, and the U.S. embassy, etc., can establish, any of these parties see this letter, they can establish that they can establish the errors, and it is this particular process that we have been on, i.e. correcting this letter that we have been on for the past 4 years now, going to the 5th year in our search for redress in this very mischievous black American colony called Liberia. Imagine every party that sees this letter knows that it is faulty, down to the very authority that handed it to us knows that it is faulty, but they've allowed us to suffer with this letter for almost 5 years now. Change this letter because it is our right to be dismissed with an authentic letter. In short, our position since January 2013 has been, let's quote what our position has been. LPRC, we know and understand the motives behind your action so well, and so we accept your action of rudely putting a sudden halt to our professional life. Yes, that's what you've done. We accept your action of rudely and unsubstantially putting stains on our family's hard-earned characters that we've taken years to build. You know, anytime you fire somebody based on such allegation, you've placed a stain on your character for life. Yes, we accept it by God's grace. We accept your criminal action to permanently close our source of income. Good, that's what you did again. You damaged our economic dreams, cut our food supply, put an end to the flow of our children's school fees, thus keeping them out of school permanently, etc., etc. But you can never achieve all this with such an easily proven fake and inauthentic dismissal letter. You can't have your cake and eat it at the same time. And so, since you yourself and the whole world can now see your so-called dismissal letter to Roland Kartee, to this Roland Kartee, you can see how it has very serious mistakes. Not even one or two. We do demand that you please just change or simply make corrections to it, to this letter, and let's go our separate ways, because you can't just have your cake and eat it at the same time. We don't know how to express this thing again. We accept all the damages you've done to us with this letter or by your action, but it cannot be done with this kind of letter, FARC. So what else do you want? You want to kill us before you are satisfied? Ladies and gentlemen, everyone knows that a complete dismissal process or employment termination process does not stop at just the issuance of a single dismissal letter. All of you in administration know this. But as big as LPRC is, and as knowledgeable as it should be, this is the only point that your sacking of Manager Roland Kartee started and has ended thus far since January 2013, just by issuing one dismissal letter, fake one. And she has been deliberately refusing to change this letter so that we all together cooperatively can now complete this full dismissal process that they initiated since January 2013. We need to do a lot of things. We just as employment is that you have to go to human resources, sign this other paper, sign that paper before getting fully employed. That's how dismissal is. It's not just by the issuance of one dismissal letter and that's it. So we need to go through all of this process. But then how can we go through all of these processes if the very first instrument that is supposed to lead the process is so faulty and you are refusing to correct it in almost 5 years? Everybody knows that an employment termination process, just as we are saying, is just like a full employment process tool that provides for more than one exchange between the employer and the employee. But American Liberian LPRC has been both ineptly and cruelly rejecting this universal formality or convention. Now, here are the legitimate efforts that we have been applying to squeeze our authentic dismissal letter copy out of their hands and to complete this termination or divorce process since 4 years now. In summary, we're saying these are the steps we've taken. Apart from almost 7 months of formal appeal or protest formalities with the company's board of directors, which considered us legitimate employee or a legitimate employee all through the process. In these 7 months, they refer to us as employee. After we've been having dismissal letter in our hands, yet failing to do the right thing, we have now had 3 different civic actions in pursuit of our position on correcting or changing this letter. Because of our deep awareness that the root of this case sits far beyond Roland Kartee and LPRC, but sits in the very issues holding this society down since 1822, and as such, just as we went about things so revolutionarily while still actively working at LPRC, we should now handle everything pertaining to this case in a way that seeks our society's interest first. Here are the additional steps that we have been taking to draw the public's and the world's attention to the issues driving this case, driving this action of LPRC, which is by extension the action of this entire country, while at the same time, because this is American Liberia, while at the same time still demanding a change or correction to our January 25, 2013 one-page dismissal letter from LPRC. So we're doing it jointly. We're saying these are all the issues that are holding this place down. At the same time, we want our letter corrected. So we're not leaving one for the other, by the grace of God. In this direction, after the multiple steps of first gracefully engaging the LPRC authorities, that is, the top management and board of directors, for almost 7 months, as we said earlier, in an effort that was ineptly terminated through another criminally negligent communication written by the board chairman, Reverend Dr. Herman Brown, on July 15, 2013, taking a stance on behalf of management and thus ending this appeal process from the company's anger. Then, secondly, engaging with different higher-up actors within the government at both the levels of the executive and legislature, careful not to include the judiciary based on our double convictions that this case has been an administrative one in many respects, and that news from the judiciary were also quite troubling, for which careful thought needed to be taken before deciding to go there, as going there definitely will make the case sub judice, or sub judice as others would call it, thus limiting its chances of ever being actively debated in a public space, which would then kill it in the end, etc. We had to then move on to the next biggest, or in fact the biggest party in all of Liberian affairs, which is the founder and the day-to-day sustainer of Liberia and all of its embarrassments, that is the United States of America, through its embassy here. In line with this conviction, on March 10, 2016, after having overwhelmingly established through our research that the United States was the root cause of all of our both personal and collective problems in this place, as we tried to mention earlier, and after two earlier communications to them, one as a courtesy copy of our case against LPRC sent to the so-called Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission, that is the LACC, and the other as a direct request, with all of these communications asking them to politely intervene in prevailing upon the LACC to look into our case filed with them against LPRC. We then wrote the U.S. Monrovia Embassy again. This was the third time, with the letter this time addressed to Ambassador Mark Ward, who was then acting after the exit of Ambassador Deborah Malak, to prevail upon the government of Liberia through the Liberia Petroleum Refining Company to issue us an error-free copy of our dismissal letter, to help seal our ultimate divorce with Liberia, its LPRC and GOL. The American Embassy didn't respond to this polite request of ours at all, even though an embassy staff, Ron Jenkins, we're so grateful to Jenkins, as a precedent, had directly talked to us before through cell number 0777-084337 in late March 2014 on a related issue. Still faithful and confident that the United States can and is the only authority that will ensure some redress for us in this long-running matter of injustice, even though in the midst of our fierce disagreement with them for how they have been and continue to negatively influence things in our home, we decided this time around on Wednesday, March 29, 2017, to march peacefully as a family to the U.S. Embassy again to politely demand this intervention after having waited for it for exactly 1 year since Ambassador Buwat was written. Now, in response to our writings and our actions, blaming America for our individual, family, and collective plight in this country, after our 10-member Kartee's family and immediate dependents have suffered 3 round weeks of scorching sunshine during the day and fatal mosquito bites at night outside of the U.S. Embassy's main gate on Benson Street in Monrovia, with placards politely demanding America's intervention in our experience of LPRC's untold injustice against us, that is the vast indigenous majority of this place, as reflected in LPRC's cruel assault on our human rights through their January 2013 action during the 3rd day of our 4th week, that is on Wednesday, April 19, 2017, with our new decision now to march into the embassy's main premises instead of keep waiting outside of the main gate as it had been all through the previous 3 weeks based on security instructions. And with the intervention now of the Liberia National Police, U.S. Embassy authorities sent out a representative to meet us, which was the regional security officer in person of Madam Kimberly Jones. During our around 20 minutes of meeting with Madam Jones under the very hot sun, slightly after 12 noon that day, she made on behalf of the embassy the following two positions to us in summary, which include A or 1, that our issue was a purely domestic one, not worthy of embassy's intervention, and B, that as an advice from them, our case was a labor issue for which they were calling upon us to take it to the American Liberian Labor Ministry for redress rather than soliciting America's intervention. After some haul and pull, with Madam Jones insisting upon their points or their arguments, while we too insisted that the mighty findings of our long years of careful research, which had informed our action there in the first place, proved their position wrong, and as such they must intervene, we had to calm down and leave, with however a proud result that even though the desired redress of our complaint and plight hadn't been achieved yet, we had, on behalf of our people, on behalf of our revolution, begun a worthwhile process of change with the mighty United States of America, based on this first ever direct interaction or encounter with a U.S. embassy type official on such an issue. So to say, with all the hauling and pulling that was going on, while Madam Jones insisted they were not going to intervene, we ourselves were insisting they must intervene. Later, because of some analysis that we did, we decided to calm down and leave. But with that on that proud note that we have begun a process of change already. Pursuant to that April 19, 2017 interaction with Madam Jones, and in reinforcement of our same demand for this much needed intervention, based on our well-founded conviction that they, the Americans, are the only ones who can and should do so, or should do such intervention, owing to the level of stake that they hold in all Liberian affairs, we, in 5 days, put together a much stronger and summarized 5-page communication to Madam Jones, with complimentary copies going to 5 additional embassy higher-ups, including Ambassador Christine Elder herself, Deputy Chief of Mission Mr. Sam Watson, Political/Economic Counselor Mr. Alexander Sokolov, Political Affairs Officer Mr. Paul Henschel, and USAID Director Mr. Anthony Chen. This 5-page April 24, 2017 letter to these top American officials provided more direct summaries of our justifications for why America is responsible for our problems, both individual and collective, in this country, which makes them owe us some moral and legal obligations, including even spiritual ones, that override their April 19th excuse for not wanting to intervene in what they were describing as a domestic affair. Among our summarized arguments to them were, for example, firstly, that without any room for doubt, it was the United States that established their Liberia, and it is they who continue to run Liberia's affairs almost entirely one way or the other, and as such, the U.S. government has unmatched influence over Liberia and all of its institutions, including government. Secondly, U.S. President William Howard Taft had declared in 1909, or we could say he had decreed in 1909, that the United States owes some moral obligation to the people of Liberia, which in our reading means to all of the people of this place, including ourselves. That almost all of the recent U.S. State Department's country reports on human rights and other practices and other justice-related issues about Liberia indicate a land that completely lacks justice. For now, we cited several credible international sources, including even American sources, that have disclosed with sad emphasis and validated our findings and claims that Liberia was set up only for America's and American Liberians' selfish interests at the detriment of the vast indigenous African majority, a terribly strangulated majority to which we belong. And This alone was sufficient reason for which we can never anymore believe in Liberia and its institutions, and were therefore only looking up to the U.S. authorities to intervene and bring some relief to our family, etc. We also use this opportunity to provide some succinct briefing to the 6 top officials of the embassy about our revolution and its current arguments and roadmap for changing our country by the grace of God. A process that will require America's input every step of the way, owing to the kind of ownership advantage that they wield over Liberian processes and activities, and the proven unmatched influence that they do have over Liberian institutions. We went as far as providing links to internet sites hosting all of our arguments and literatures, informing and guiding this change process by the grace of God, in an effort to honestly and transparently acquaint them with the issues that we all now have at hand in this country or pertaining to this country, while we still awaited their response to our humble demand for their intervention in settling this serious quagmire between us and the LPRC. Ladies and gentlemen, ever since April 2017, in addition to what is never strange to us about Liberia's overwhelmingly criminal disregard for human rights and human feelings, and about their known gross unwillingness and inability to ever want to listen to the qualms or to address the plight of especially an indigenous element in this place under normal circumstances, America, who is the sad root and sustainer of all this embarrassment in our lives, while at the same time is fortunately the most conscious, most civilized, the most mature and most powerful stakeholder and party to this enduring quagmire, has sadly decided in our case to join her protege, the government of Liberia, in ignoring our very loud and long-standing call for redress to this terrible injustice that we are currently enduring. In the word of a U.S.-Liberia collusion against our rights in this place since 1822, such prolonged deaf ears by them, the powers that be, to this radical demand of ours signals a possible behind-the-scenes, well-coordinated plan or scheme by the both parties to find ways to silence us. Ultimately, if at all, we continue to persist with our demands, as this kind of persistence on their part interprets as an affront to them. They may wrongly perceive it as a threat to their interests in a short, medium, and long term, etc. But before announcing to them how we still are determined, irrespective of whatever secret maneuvers that they may be designing against us, we are still determined now to push our demand for their intervention in handling this issue between us and the LPRC, being unconditionally assured spiritually that our God is firmly by our side, for which we will never give up or fear anything or anybody. We come to further disprove the U.S. Embassy's April 19, 2017's assertions to us that they do not intervene in our domestic affairs, and that the revolutionary complaint that we have with them is a mere labor matter that we should take to American Liberia's labor ministry. We believe that these are flawed positions based upon which our great American friends, through their embassy here, still continue to ignore our polite call for their intervention in this direct encounter of ours with American Liberian untold injustice at the hands of LPRC. So before we can make our positions clear too, let us let the Americans know that position, that our issue was a mere domestic issue, our issue was a labor issue, we kick against it, we rebuke it, and will prove beyond all reasonable doubt that there's nothing like domestic issue, there's nothing like mere labor issue when it comes to Liberian issues, when it comes to Liberia's U.S. involvement with Liberian affairs. And it should go ahead, please, to intervene in this issue, because our family continues to suffer. We can't move without this letter being corrected. And know that the essence of us keep bringing up these points is to challenge or to even dare the Americans to ever respond publicly to these grave issues and claims of ours, if they truly have remorse of conscience or if they truly respect the concerns and rights of other human beings other than American citizens. We're saying you only care for American citizens and don't care for people's feelings from elsewhere. You cause problems on us and we'll bring issues to you. You say they are domestic. Meanwhile, your hand is in everything here, down to the investigation of Harry Reid's death. You did it and carry report. So you're waiting for death to occur first. God forbid. So we say here, in defense of our claim that America is always meddling into our domestic affairs here, even though this should be clearly obvious, since we are still a confused de facto black American colony. We're not independent. We're not independent. We're a confused black American colony. So they have right to interfere in every affair of ours, especially for their selfish gains. We do have a preponderance of proofs from both history and current events. Two key ones of these proofs, which are as follows. These are some of the proofs that we have that there's nothing like domestic affair, nothing like mere labor matter when it comes to U.S. interference with every affair in this country. The U.S. Embassy in Monrovia told us on April 19, 2017 that they don't intervene in our domestic affairs, but history tells us otherwise. For example, in addition to Naval Lieutenant and later U.S. New Jersey Senator Robert Field Stockton's use of the USS Alligator warship to arm rob land from our tribal forefathers in December 1821 for the establishment of America's devilish and failed Liberia. Other recorded use of U.S. official military might to either massacre or fatally intimidate our defenseless tribal people on behalf of the American Liberians included such instances as in 1876 when the USS Alaska was used officially by American naval officers under the command of Captain A.A. Sims to take American Liberian President James S. Payne in an intimidating fashion to Cape Palmas for the settlement of a purely domestic war between the American Liberians and our grateful forefathers. So was this not an interference in a people's domestic affairs? USS Alligator was used to snatch away our land from us to dump your free blacks, your criminal blacks. Again, USS Alaska was used to officially take an American Liberian president to Cape Palmas to solve some domestic war in favor of the American Liberians. Then we go on to say, but even in more hostile and bloody fashions, American naval troops officially used the Goronoma, another American warship, to gruesomely massacre our ill-equipped and unsophisticated Grebo tribesmen in Maryland County in another purely domestic quarrel between our Grebo tribal family members and the ever-criminal American Liberian GOL, whom our Grebo forefathers had decided to resist for continuously, forcibly collecting so-called taxes and other monies from them without giving them anything in return. Still in 1915, based upon similar contentions as put up by the Grebos in 1875 and 1893 over the everyday criminal useless tax issue, American naval authorities had to divert a whole warship again, the USS Chester, leaving from Turkey back to the United States to come to Liberia to massively kill our rampaging crew people on behalf of the ever devilish and criminal American Liberian Monrovia elite in 1915, etc. All these accounts can be found from several sources, so using American warships just to kill our indigenous people every now and then on behalf of the American Liberians. This is not a way of, or is not, these are not examples of interference in people's domestic affairs. You set up an independent country, the country cannot set up its own army, it cannot set up its own police force. Each time a domestic quarrel erupts, you use USS Goronoma, USS Alaska, USS Chester, and all of these American mites, American warships to come and kill our people on behalf of the American Liberians. These are not ways of interfering in our domestic affairs. So we say all these accounts can be found from several sources, including Wikipedia's narratives of the history of Liberia, its accounts of the American Colonization Society, Joseph C. Guanu's books, including a short history of the first Liberian Republic, Liberian history up to 1847, etc. But to find even more intriguing things about America's condescending involvement with all Liberian affairs from small to big, including wars, corruption, mischief, and the likes, please access our Plaintive Revolutionary pamphlet or revolution pamphlet entitled Liberia's Justifications for Demanding Reparations from America Now. This pamphlet will give you narratives on how everything that has killed us in this country has an American root, down to Ebola. All the civil wars had American roots. You must be from American background before you are brave to do anything here. You can bring warrior as many times as possible at any. Once you have an American backing, you can kill as many persons as you want. Which, depending on format, can be found. That means this pamphlet, depending on the format you want it in, whether you want it in .doc or .pdf format, it can be found at https://rs.gd/lowercase k, uppercase y, uppercase z, lowercase s, uppercase r, and uppercase t, or https://uppercase d, lowercase y, uppercase c, lowercase n, uppercase o, and lowercase h. You can find this pamphlet at these sites to read more about how nothing in this country, nothing terrible or calamitous in this country can ever happen without some American backing. The American embassy told us our point number B, or letter B. The American embassy told us in April 2017 that she doesn't intervene, or we say here, she doesn't meddle in Liberian domestic affairs. Or again, looking at things from a revolutionary perspective or revolutionary angle, she doesn't meddle in our home's affairs. But let's give you a gist of how, as a matter of tradition, whether explicitly or implicitly done, America does decide and impose political leaders on Liberia, but subtly through some fake process called elections, like the one coming up in October, just to deceive the world that democracy is working in this terribly failed black American colony of the called Liberia. These very few accounts, which are just a drop in the ocean, are being gleaned from recent history to current events, beginning with even the very current events of 2017. Liberians, probably the only people on the planet who, based upon America's instructions to them, place politics over justice, are currently in high spirit. We just want to give you, we are starting with the current one to go backwards. So we're starting with the issues right now in 2017. We say Liberians, probably the only people on this planet who, based upon America's instructions to them, place politics over justice. Justice, we say politics comes first, justice is nothing. Are currently in high spirit to go to the polls to take part in another Pandora box and a recipe for further chaos called presidential and legislative elections is October 2017. Interestingly, in early May 2017, several sources, including the LiberiaListener.com, the local Improvised Daily newspaper, and the Liberian news agency Vina, etc., reported that the U.S. Embassy had posted a public service announcement on their official website calling on all current Liberian presidential aspirants to proceed to the U.S. Embassy with their various platforms. And as they, meaning these papers, were narrating the story, the process had already begun, with presidential aspirant, one councillor, Dr. Jala Babu, of the so-called New Liberia Party, having been cross-examined already by embassy officials on Friday, May 5, 2017. Excerpts of the U.S. Embassy's May 2017 press release, as featured by some of these media outlets, read thus, with some cleverly added clause, as usual, like a kind of disclaimer to deceive people. And this release goes like this. So we're quoting directly as the papers put it, quoting to the U.S. Embassy website. We go on to say, the U.S. Embassy said as follows. Quote, "We, meaning the American people and government, congratulate the government and people of Liberia for their vibrant democracy, oh mockery, and their successful registration process." This is what they call vibrant democracy. A democracy of only elections that has 29 or 26 political parties, and everybody wants to become president. We continue. Directly from the U.S. Embassy's website, we are inviting a series of private discussions with presidential aspirants of political parties who wish to engage with the U.S. Embassy. The first dialogue took place with Councillor Dr. Jala Babu of the New Liberia Party. The Embassy will continue these dialogues in the weeks that follow in order to understand the platforms, priorities, and philosophies of the aspirants. We wish Liberia a successful election that is free, fair, open, and peaceful. U.S. Embassy meetings with political aspirants will be closed to the press. Unquote. As we said earlier, this pattern is not strange. In the immediate elections before this pending one in 2017, that is the 2011 elections, a major actor on the Liberian political scene, Mr. William Norton, who is currently the vice presidential running mate of the Movement for Progressive Change's standard bearer, Mr. Simeon Freeman, has revealed that America, through its ambassador here at the time, Madam Linda Thomas Greenfield, had outrightly called persistently and discouraged Councillor Winston Todman of the Congress for Democratic Change, the only runner-up or second round contender against America's choice, incumbent Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, to disengage from the process on grounds that Ellen was preferred and chosen by America during these elections. Listen to that. So William Norton, during the 2011 elections, was privileged to have been in the camp of Councillor Winston Todman at the time for the Congress for Democratic Change. And then he claims here, according to the Public Agenda newspaper, that Ambassador Linda Thomas Greenfield, U.S. Ambassador to Liberia at the time, persistently called on Councillor Todman to withdraw from the race because America at the time was interested in Ellen Johnson Sirleaf for a second term. So we'll go on reading. This is according to the Public Agenda newspaper's Monday, May 22, 2017 edition, which reported that Councillor Todman, when quizzed by the people, confirmed that he received a lot of calls from a lot of American officials at the time that their choice was Ellen. But then he denied the ambassador's part of course, while the embassy, through its public affairs officer, one Becca Asher Nepper, responded to these claims with some raw cheek as usual. Then finally, for now, for the elections whose outcomes and products dragged the country into its recent past 14 years of civil conflict, a war or conflict after whose cessation another U.S. Liberia collusion has flushed away a great opportunity to bring about lasting peace and security grounded in justice to this country, which is the bloody 1985 elections. That is, it is this election that brought up a war. This war brought an opportunity after 14 years, after it ceased, after 14 years, an opportunity came for Liberia to get on track, for Liberia to make right some of those terrible wrongs from the past. But this particular opportunity has been flushed away again by another U.S. American-Liberian collusion, this time using Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, which was the 1985 elections. The main actor, America's darling boy and preferred choice in those elections, always she has some darling boy, some preferred choice, like how she has today Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, was someone planted by them to destroy President William R. Tobert, the most productive president that this cursed Liberia has ever had in all of his productive legacies. So we say this 1985 elections. In this 1985 elections, the main actor, which was Samuel K. was America's choice at the time, and he used this man to destroy William R. Tolbert and all of his productive legacies, allegedly. But before we can spell out accounts of America's intelligent meddling into this 1985 election process and their implicit backings of these phony elections, very murky results that had blood hanging all over it, which we are doing here in further proofs of our claims that America is all into our domestic affairs, whether individually, family-wise, or collectively, or whether directly or indirectly, as opposed to what Madam Kimberly Jones had told our plain revolutionary Kartee's family on Wednesday, April 19, 2017. Let's first lay the premise of how this 1985 election was a continuation of America's wicked campaign to destroy productive President Tolbert and all of his constructive progressive legacies, even 10 to 20 years on, if that's what it took. That's how America behaves. So when she hates you, she does everything possible to get rid of you, get rid of everything that you want to leave behind on planet Earth, especially for her capitalist gains, Wall Street gains at that rate. So first off, just as America had allegedly masterminded President Tolbert's brother, Steve Tolbert's mysterious death over the Firestone Contract amendments and disagreements, the United States also allegedly cleverly paid Tolbert's uneducated natives to hunt him down or to seriously undermine him, since indeed he wanted to show them love and to be open to them, to the terrible displeasure of American Liberian community and America herself. So Tolbert's approach of trying to get closer to the natives, to train the natives, to educate the natives, all of these were serious problems to America and her American Liberians, who are bent on keeping the native population in this country as just mere stooges forever, mere foot soldiers, mere cannon folders forever. The Progressive Alliance of Liberia, or PAL, that group that shook the very foundations of the Tolbert government until his allegedly American-assisted brutal killing by an illiterate and ill-prepared Samuel K. That means PAL was established right in New York, the USA, in 1975 under the leadership of Gabriel Bacchus Matthews, who was serving as an official of the Liberian Consulate in New York, in further demonstration of America's open support for the scapegoated, gruesome killing of President Tolbert by Samuel K. Doe's People's Redemption Council, or PRC. History has it that even though this PRC came to power so cruelly, bloodily, and illegitimately, it was quickly recognized officially by this widely perceived greatest example of democracy and civilization, which is the United States of America. Shortly after Doe's April 12, 1980 coup that murdered Tolbert, the United States government provided Doe's new military junta $43.5 million United States dollars in so-called loan, quickly to construct housing units for soldiers of those armed forces of Liberia, in an apparent appreciation of their successful implementation of that bloody April 12, 1980 project against Tolbert. The U.S. did not stop there. According to history, President Ronald Reagan quickly and unprecedentedly increased U.S. financial aid and assistance to those Liberia from an existing $20 million per annum as of 1979 to a walloping $75 million per year beginning 1981, the very first year of those military dictatorship. History continues. Between 1980 and 1986, those Liberia had received over $500 million US in financial aid, not in loan. A 5-year total, again, that walloped the combined total of every financial aid package that Liberia had ever received from the U.S. or the United States from the date of its Mickey Mouse independence in 1847 to the beginning of those rule in 1981. So who will have problem if we say Doe was explicitly supported by the United States of America? With respect to America's implicit support of those rigging of the 1985 elections, just to keep operations Kill Turbo's legacy intact. Let's first lay the premise of how America's Doe even became a candidate in those elections. How Doe became candidate in those elections in the first place. When this military dictator took power through that bloody coup of 1980, Doe was advanced and in fact won in line with internationally approved best practice standards of democracy to implement a process whereby an interim civilian leadership will be established to organize and execute free and fair elections wherein Mr. Doe himself will run if he still wanted America-Liberia presidency. Doe agreed and established the Interim National Assembly, or the INA, but very mockingly, as this cruel US-Liberia collusion is known for insulting the international community right within its face, including the UN, just as they and ENU are currently doing. Bloody military man Samuel K. Doe appointed himself as the head of the newly established elections organizing civilian body, which is the Interim National Assembly, or INA. He appointed his Vice President Harry Monimba as the vice head of the INA. Mockery, ladies and gentlemen. And he appointed all of the remaining members of his bloody People's Redemption Council as members of the INA, along with a few civilians. So the interim arrangement that is supposed to organize free and fair elections, since you are a military dictator, he said, okay, I will just be that same interim arrangement, that civilian interim arrangement. I and my PRC again will be making mockery out of civilization, all because of America's explicit backing. Let's remember here that Doe had killed up to 7 out of the 17-member PRC body just in about a year's time, on suspicion of them trying to overthrow him. According to the book Liberian History since 1980, neither did Doe, his VP, nor any of his PRC members ever resigned their military junta positions before assuming their new INA roles. It was this nasty INA that set up the Special Elections Commission, or SECOM, to run the 1985 elections, that the INA's boss himself, military man turned civilian Samuel K. Doe, a heavily US-backed Master Sergeant Samuel Doe himself, won in the end. Mockery out of life. After Doe dishonorably rigged the 1985 elections, to the biggest displeasure of the rest of the international community that observed the process, this is how the then U.S. Secretary of State for African Affairs, Mr. Chester A. Crocker, put it when he testified about the elections before the mighty U.S. Congress, the people that set up the Liberia in 1817, 1816. He started off by acknowledging that the elections were flawed. That's what Mr. Crocker, Chester A. Crocker, or Cracker. That's why he said. He started off by saying that the elections were flawed, but in his words, at least it was the first step towards democracy. Mr. Crocker then went on to justify his support for the results with the claim that in any case, all African elections were known to be rigged. This respectable American diplomat and statesman was saying all this when almost all of the foreign observers at the polls had declared that the elections were massively fraudulent, and when most of the elected positions or elected opposition candidates had refused to take up their seats based on how massively fraudulent this election was. Mr. Crocker was also making these kinds of disingenuous statements in direct contradiction of a well-known fact that he and all of America do know, that this Liberia of theirs started professionally practicing democracy and holding elections from the very year of its Mickey Mouse independence in 1847, when her first official post-independence elections were held on September 27, 1847. And after this, people went to the polls to vote in Liberia after every 2 years up to the early 1900s, and then after every 4 years after the early 1900s, and so forth. Ladies and gentlemen, when our revolutionary vision-bearing family went to the U.S. Embassy with the peaceful protest that we've been discussing about all along in this narrative, we took all of these facts and many more, including 5 of our Big 11 revolutionary pamphlets and exactly 27 hours of MP3 voice recorded file or work, placed on 6 CDs, all detailing the key findings of our 4 years of research into this enduring Liberian super mess called a sovereign country, including honest solution actions to dealing with our big problems now by the grace of God, and the roadmap to the implementation of these alternative solutions or solution actions. We also provided them links to the rest of our work on the internet, as we mentioned earlier. Now, cynics or critics may question what sense it makes to deliver into the hands of America or into America's hands all of the arguments and roadmap of our revolution, when in the first place, majority of the arguments go against America. Concerns will be such as, how do we then think that they, i.e. America, will cooperate with this agenda? Or why do we think that they will not greatly undermine this very productive agenda, etc. and etc.? These kinds of concerns, genuine concerns. We say to these kinds of genuine concerns, that's what fighting a close-range battle using the ever-waning godly weapons of love, truth, justice, transparency, and mutual respect means. This is what it means to fight a godly battle. A battle not of flesh, but a battle of wills and a battle of spirit. These are the kind of tools that you employ: transparency, honesty, openness, mutual respect. It is never our goal to fight or antagonize America in the midst of all these strong qualms that we have with them, but instead to create a very strong and rich awareness within each of the stakeholders to this terrible Liberian story, including them, the Americans, that will facilitate some frank family get-together for us to boldly debate and discuss these deadly issues that strictly border so much on our lives, our future, and those of our future generations. We don't want to prolong this battle because you can't fight America, or you can't fight them in some physical war now. We don't do so. So we are not against them. We don't hate them. We want to just open up all of the facts so that there's an opportunity for us to debate these issues and then gain our truthful independence from them. We believe it can work without a drip of blood, and we're confident that it will happen so in the end. We say, if you ever doubt whether such seemingly blind use of love as we are doing, transparency as we are doing, and mutual respect as we are doing has got any precedent in history, whether the kinds of things have got any precedent in history, then we will equally refer you to the same America's use of such godly approach in 1774, when the American patriots smartly and openly documented all of their grievances against British rule and Britain's foul influence over their countries and their country and society, and then respectfully sent this document to King George III in London, despite his small revolutionary groups' heated disagreements at the time on behalf of the rest of the American population with the British Parliament enthroned in the midst of the imposition by London of its twin colonial administrative acts, that is which were the Stamp Act of 1765 and the Coercive Act of 1773, all of which suppressed America's interests and freedoms, just as America since 1822 continues to use their different imperialist techniques, using different nomenclatures like today's World Bank, IMF loan schemes, MCC grants, and the likes, to kill and suppress us here forever, just for their palm oil, rubber, natural oil, etc., to keep flowing unhindered. We believe that the very first virtue required for fighting any big and dangerous battle, like what we have, or like what we, of this country do now have at hand, or for undertaking any ambitious endeavor, for that matter, is the truth. A very powerful virtue, which too might be flanked equally by other virtues such as love, justice, and openness. We also believe that no struggle can ever be embarked upon and won by us human beings while solely depending upon our own intellect and strength, but instead it only takes God's direct intervention and power for his children to win any battle, and that God only intervenes when his eternal principles, like what we have listed above, are used as our weapons of choice. That's why, contrary to what many persons here may be expecting, that we are going to be very sycophantic and deceitfully diplomatic with the Americans, so as to gain some favor from them and get some relief for the terrible pains of injustice that we are currently facing at the hands of LPRC and her GOL, when we know too well that it is this very America which in fact initiated all this nightmare of injustice in our society and our lives, and she continues to sustain it one way or the other. We have instead been very honestly blunt and massively transparent with the Americans since we started engaging them in March of 2014. So while the public is expecting us to be sycophantic, maybe we go want some visa to travel, want to see the beauty of America, want to enjoy the beauty of America, so we go explain our problems, show some of these marks of injustice, and then we gain your sympathy and maybe travel. We say no. We're going to be very massively transparent with them, because we want to stand on behalf of our people. We want to see our people liberated. We want to see our country released from this particular trouble. We want to see our country freed from this particular kind of mess. And we need to talk the truth. America will understand if we know how to place these debates, but we have to come down with the harsh truths first before we find a way to solve the problems. So we say, for we have all along vowed by God's grace that our call for America's intervention in these matters must never entertain any form or traces of deceit, pretense, or clever entrapment, all of which are dishonest strategies that they and the American Liberians have become well known for employing in the handling of almost everything else in this country. These are the tools they use. Deceit. American and American Liberians use these kinds of tools. We're not going to use them. We're going to be openly transparent, because we need God every step of the way, and God requires his children to use these principles. So we say from 1816 to this 2017, these are the deceitful tools that American and American Liberians use against us here. So no, we're not going to use the same tools against them. Instead, we say America herself knows that she's so much badly entrapped and entangled with this country's very super mess at every level now. And so we pray to stick to being founding friends to them, while we all now search for lasting solutions to this country's mammoth problems, rather than joining the current American Liberian fray of keep being America's ever smiling enemies. So by God's grace, we pray to be very bold and transparent with them every step of the way. Every step of the way. The American initiated and sustained problems of this country are very overwhelming and dangerous. And as we now embark on this search for stable and permanent solutions to these problems, God willing, the need for great levels of honesty, truth-telling, and love, as we mentioned earlier, and will keep emphasizing, has become so indispensable, because we need God, as we said earlier, every step of the way. And these are the only set of tools that can invoke this God's matchless intervention. Please excuse us for these breaks and these many distractions. We'll keep saying we're doing these recordings under very difficult circumstances, in very difficult terrains, but we have to go ahead, because we don't believe in excuses. We believe that there's time for everything, and it is time for us to bring these debates to the fore. No matter our conditions, no matter the situations we're in, no matter the environments we're in, we think we can still work. We can still work. So we're braving a lot of storms to do all of what we're doing. So please bear with us where the quality of this work becomes coarse. Thank you. We continue. As a matter of fact, we know America, or we know Americans to be very great and loving people. They are a very great and loving people, and acting as individuals, we know them to be very kind and generous. But unfortunately, our relationship with their governing structure and some of their capitalists and other institutions, all driven by imperialism, is where the big curse lies, etc. Excuse. A curse sadly hatched by some of the United States' revered founding fathers through the establishment of the so-called American Colonization Society, or ACS, in 1816, a scheme which weeded out black criminals from the United States and then cruelly and deceitfully brought them and imposed them upon us here in 1822. A development which now qualifies unconditionally as the primary source of all of our problems today. This curse was officially approved by the great U.S. Congress in February 1817, according to the Niles Weekly Register, and since then, this unfortunate curse continues to be sustained by successive American administrations and mainly Wall Street actors throughout history up to this point, with just one of its most recent demonstrations being the November 2015 award of US $256.7 million in so-called prize money to the ever visionless and criminal American Liberian government for purported good political and economic governance. Ladies and gentlemen, oh, what a cursed mockery. A cursed mockery to hear Liberian government received prize money of this kind for good governance or economic management. My foot, God forbid. We keep saying no. We are not going to employ any form of fear or sycophancy in this engagement with the world's premier superpower in these debates for our founder freedom and independence by God's grace. For we have too many terrible issues against this America that must now be dug up and brought to light boldly in order to save our both parties' individual relationships with God, because as we speak, while America is massively abusing and exploiting us, they are also blaspheming against both us and God. And while we do keep sitting on the fence or sitting by without doing anything concrete based on faith in God to bring America to book so as to stop them from keep sinning so terribly against us and God, like what's happening in this place, so as to also help deliver us from these very long years of de jure and de facto slavery at the hands of another man or another race. We are also sinning against the Americans and offending God in the process. So it's a two-way street. While they are sinning against us and God by the kind of mistreatments being meted out against us here, all from economic gains, and we are said to why we sit back and allow it to continue without us doing anything through faith for God to intervene for these situations to people under control. We are all sinning, and there's a need now for us to put a stop to all of this double-edged suffering or double-edged sinning. These both forms of offense or offenses to our Creator must now be brought to book and ended here by the grace of God. Yes, we are facing the United States with this massive truth-telling now, while still expecting positive response from them at the same time, ironically. All because we believe in their high level of maturity and their unbridled objectivity, even in the midst of constructive adversity or opposition. We encourage all people of this country now, whether acting as individuals, groups, or institutions, to begin taking all their problems at America's doorsteps for solutions. Let's now overwhelm them with requests and demands for interventions, or engage them for the direct provision of solutions to our problems, so that as we now push our demand for true independence from them, they can see every reason to to get off our backs. That's the only way to get off our backs. Let's overwhelm them with problems and blames and stuff like that. For America's colonialism and imperialism have crippled our generations upon generations here for almost 2 centuries now. And because of this superpowers' cruel imperialistic claws over our society, we are a people who sadly do not think for and act for themselves. Instead, it's rather the World Bank, UC, EU, the IMF that must think and craft out and implement just anything and everything, every project for us for that matter. The result of this very messy situation for over 190 years now has been a badly disorganized, indisciplined, criminal and unproductive society and people without prejudice to our predominantly innocent people who have been oppressed by a world superpower with these kinds of terrible conditions, with no iota of hope for any better future in sight. All this we vow must now come to a close by the grace of God, as heaven's kids are now so overwhelmed with the cries of God's children living on this dark side of the globe. As we now engage the Americans on all these kinds of grave issues, which for us begins with our personal ordeal with LPRC, the central point of argument is that if they fail or refuse to work with their protege, the GOL, to LPRC to handle our dismissal issue correctly, then it will be a very serious minus to them, because it will pin them as remorseless about the very terrible things happening to God's children like themselves in this place, and it will also pin them very ugly to the rest of the world. They will be seeing that all of our claims about the cruelly negative involvement of our affairs in this country are lies, when even a 2-year-old child can testify that we are telling the truth, and as such denial by them will definitely bring down God's wrath upon them just within a matter of short time. That's what we're saying. If you say that we are lying, with all of these proofs that we're providing, we believe God will strike you. We are confident, and we will decree it if that's what it takes, like what we're even doing. So we trust that you will come to your senses, so that we see how the issues of this country can now be put under control, because it is not easy. The mess is too much, and God is about to strike if we all don't come to our senses to do something now. But if they respond positively, on the other hand, by intervening, whether directly or indirectly, they will be demonstrating a real superpower maturity, far-sightedness, and objectivity, which will win for them some huge applause, again, either secretly or openly, from both men and God. That's the option that you have. Intervene, and let's begin to listen to both our family and our revolution. Let us start to put this country's problems under control, and you will win for yourself so much again, as compared to keep resisting, because God will strike. Their response to these issues and their tolerance with our plenty revolutionary arguments and perspectives will also demonstrate how honestly concerned they are about the sorrowful collective plight of the people of this place, and how willing they are to now grant us our true independence once we too, as a people, take the right steps and employ the right approaches right now, as we are doing. Something our plenty revolution frankly thinks that we, the people of this country, especially of native backgrounds, have not been doing for all these long years for which we are talking, and to make sure that we do so the right way now, by the grace of God. That's why God has empowered our plenty revolution to embark on this campaign of bringing massive information to all of the parties to this enduring Liberian nightmare. We do believe, just as one of the declarations of principles of the World Summit on Information Society, WSRS, has said, and everyone will agree, the organization of society is greatly shaped by the availability of information. We're saying The Plaintiff Revolution believes in this particular statement from the World Summit on Information Society. It was declared in 2010 or so, which says the organization of society is greatly shaped by the availability of information. So the more information we have in society, the more organized the society becomes. President Obama reinforced this statement and concept when he said in 2010 that the more information begins to flow within a society, the better and better that society becomes. That's what we're trying to do. What our Plaintiff Revolutionary Kartee's family did there at the U.S. Embassy for all those 20 plus days, beginning March 29 this year, was also excused a good litmus test to gauge the sense of humanity, love, and appreciation of the miscreants in this country that call themselves American Liberians and their so-called government of Liberia. So it was not a litmus test for only Americans alone. It was also a litmus test for the people who call themselves American Liberians here, and the particular people who are in charge of governance today, including the very early Johnson Sirleaf. Try to listen well and see how this was a test to them too that they have failed. And sadly, these people failed so miserably again, further backing our solid research findings that these people are American Liberians and their terrorists GOL are indeed the ones who truly behave and go about things like savages, and not us the natives, as they have even been claiming that we are even savages all along in history, and treating our tribal forefathers explicitly excused like animals. Imagine now, so listen to the story. Imagine, since we took this action March 29 to April 19 this year, no organ of this government, this American Liberian government, including the very top, calling itself the presidency, has ever been able to call us. Imagine American embassy can call us on these issues. They will say Jenkins called us in late March of 2014. The Liberian government, no organ of it, with the exception of the police, that you understand later, no organ, including the presidency, has ever been able to call us to find out why we, their professed subjects, their professed citizens, their professed electorates, ever have the audacity to go to a foreign embassy to seek redress for what on the surface is a domestic affair, like our issue of LPRC. Nobody in Liberian government is concerned. Nobody is concerned. Absolutely nobody. People heard that a family was up there at the embassy for weeks. Yes, this whole country heard it, but nobody. Now, let's not bother here to delve into the side of the entire government's own negligence in handling this issue, in showing some concern for this aggrieved family, this so-called set of Liberian citizens, yes, they say that Liberian citizens, etc. No matter what the difference in opinions may be, as this kind of narration could run us into a whole 500-page book. We say we don't even want to bother this Liberian government, so we want to limit the negligence of American Liberia only here to Ellen, because if we delve into how the entire government is very negligent, we'll be going to another 500-page book. Let us instead limit our discussions to only Ellen's side of the story, since she heads the so-called government. We therefore say Ellen thinks that by hearing that a small family of around 10 have been assembling somewhat embarrassingly at the U.S. Embassy for over 20 days, petitioning the U.S. government in a polite demand to intervene in an issue between them and her LPRC, one of her own so-called SOEs, and she shows no concern apart from numerous attempts in the past to gain her attention, which she mischievously ignored. Then, by doing all this, she was showing signs of strength, fitness, leadership, reconciliation, endurance, because the people making this kind of peaceful demand, or the people who made this peaceful demand to the U.S. Embassy, were numbskulls that deserve no attention at all in Liberia's part of democracy. What Ellen unfortunately failed, since we deserve no attention at all in Liberia's part of democracy, what she unfortunately failed to realize in this kind of reckless, don't care behavior is that she has demonstrated being a dull, careless criminal that shows no sign of appreciation for the people that have made her, her principles, and her partners in crime, America, or partner in crime, America. You know how America has stood by her side every step of the way. If you hear a family has gone to them to petition them in such an embarrassing manner, nothing you can do about it. We are saying, if Ellen were a smart and careful administrator, as her American counterparts like Presidents Bush and Obama and the rest have always mistaken her to be, immediately upon hearing, possibly from numerous sources, because it's just impossible that she didn't hear it, from numerous sources including the Liberal National Police High Command, these are people who came and met us there, and even the embassy authorities themselves. Yes, she is in contact with the U.S. Embassy. They definitely told her that a single family was here telling us to intervene in something between them and LPRC. That a small Liberian family was doing such a somewhat embarrassing thing at the U.S. Embassy, knowing how America has stood, we're just repeating it, how America has stood by her side from her days of undermining trouble up to today, with this superpower having to bend over backwards or violate their own conscience every time just to make sure that she, Ellen, succeeds and becomes a relative victor in all of her criminal maneuvers. She would have moved quickly to put the situation under control in a very amicable and smart or honest way, just to let sleeping dog lie if possible. But Ellen is a morally lax and mentally inferior criminal, as in the words of the very Americans that sent her forefathers here in the 1800s. That's why she thinks that she's doing so well and protecting her friend America by ignoring the broader scope complaint of ours from the LPRC, which if not handled carefully could ignite a whole war from God, apart from barely exposing all of the nasty deeds of American principles, the kinds of very iniquitous maneuvers that they have orchestrated here all along with her, just for the sake of their economic gains and the neglect of our well-being and sufferings. We go on to say, for example, early in her government, if they were honestly smart and not criminally smart as they always prove to be, they should have by now known the following points or downsides about themselves, especially about Ellen, which only America can help to protect. So let's repeat here that, for example, Ellen in her government, if they were honestly smart and not criminally smart as they always want to prove themselves to be, they should have by now known the following very key points or downsides about themselves, especially about Ellen, which only America can help to protect. Number 1, or A, that she did not deserve vying for the presidency of any group of decent, civilized and independent people in the first place. Again, with due respect to our predominantly innocent people of this land. And it was the penetrating influence of the Americans for their own selfish interest in the end, as usual, that had Article 52B of the Liberian Constitution relaxed to make her, meaning Ellen, become president in 2005. After, in separate developments, she had lied that she knew nothing about the notorious National Patriotic Front of Liberia rebel group. And it later turned out that she was in fact a key founder and authority of this reportedly savage American Liberian rebel group that committed some of the most heinous crimes against humanity, against our people, our indigenous majority in this country, as usual, mischievously using ourselves against ourselves. So she denied that she never knew anything about the MPFL. It's because of the same America's influence and interest that she became president. She should, in a decent place, she was not even going to vow. Let me buy excuse. B, that she, Ellen, did not deserve running for a second term. For any knowledgeable civilized and independent people, again without prejudice to our massively illiterate and ill-educated citizens. But again, it was a foul, underhand American scheme or support, one way or the other, that had so-called Chief Justice Johnny Lewis declaring a legitimate 30-year ban against her and 48 other criminals through our Truth and Reconciliation Commission process. With this man, this so-called Supreme Court Justice, Chief Justice, stupidly declaring as unconstitutional this particular 30-year ban during the very year of the second term election, 2011, just to see Ellen through. So to make it short, it is just because America wanted to see her through. That's how come Mr. Johnny Lewis, calling himself Supreme Court Chief Justice, again came to declare as unconstitutional a legitimate 30-year ban against Ellen and 48 other criminals in our TRC process, just to see this woman going through again. See, they should have known, and she herself should have known, that her government, or that by no stretch of imagination, she and her government should have known that by no stretch of imagination could she have ever won a Nobel Peace Prize in this life. But again, to help her win the presidency, for more of our precious natural oil blacks to be auctioned or dished out to Wall Street firms, Ellen was helped by the Americans to dupe the Honorable Nobel Committee, especially after Chevron CEO Mr. John Watson had just visited her to congratulate her for criminally giving out our oil blacks 11, 12, and 14 to them, according to American media outlet ProPublica and our local National Chronicle newspaper. It was right within this time, days in fact, less than a week to the second term election, that this American librarian, queen of corruption, ever won the prestigious Nobel Peace Prize, purportedly for preventing deadly crisis, when in reality this woman has lived all her life, even during her presidency, igniting or orchestrating bloody crisis one way or the other. So people like Ellen had to win Nobel Peace Prize, all because the Americans wanted her to continue in the second term for their oil contracts to be sealed, to be finalized, for more and more oil blacks to be given out, but because it is just a contract. That's why Liberian presidency is all about contract between you and America, or contract especially between you and Wall Street, just for economic activities to go on. Mr. Abraham Lincoln himself was the one who initiated this particular process in 1862, according to a February 5 edition of the New York Times newspaper. Ellen knows that she and her government have demonstrated no honest political will to ever qualify them for winning such favors as, for example, one, the huge debt waiver that this country witnessed in June of 2010 to allow them begin irresponsibly and criminally contracting more and more new loans and grants, again to do the kinds of sordid things that they are doing here in the name of development, with no signs of ever paying a cent out of these many loans back, or B, the hundreds of millions that was dished out to them here by the Millennium Challenge Corporation, which they were criminally boasting will solve all of these dirty Liberia's economic problems, including electricity problems, etc. But that they have been enjoying these kinds of, so we say, all of these kind of favors. They should have known by now that it is America that is causing them to enjoy all of these kinds of favors. So if this America, something embarrassing is coming against this America, smart criminals will try as best as possible to solve it before it gets out of hand. We're not saying it should come at us hard, God forbid, because it will not work. So we'll continue Liberia's economic woes, etc. But that they have been enjoying these kinds of corrupt favors, which will only eventually plunge our country back into chaos if we do not do what we're doing now. all because they are on a mission, that is, early in her government are on a mission as American contractors working through the white-collar terrorist organization called GOL here, just to dish out our precious natural resources and human beings to their American partners in crime, as it has been since 1822, with a little exception of the days of President Talbot, or little to a small extent, etc. and etc. And so, pausing here for now, if early in her government were careful criminals, being aware of all of these kinds of volatile and toxic realities that could spark up trouble at any time against their principles, the people that have held them in power for all these 12 years, etc., she would have fought to know who this Roland Kartee and his family are, to have the audacity to go on the offensive severely against America for their problems, which they say represents all of the country's problems. Why should they go to my principles, for example, these kinds of concerns? Why should they go to my principal America in such a manner? What are the concerns, or what are their concerns, and how can we handle those concerns together amicably and honestly, etc.? These, if they were honest people, even honest criminals, because there are criminals who sometimes will want to be honest, they would have fought hard to raise these kinds of concerns, to take these kinds of steps. But she and her government, with the exception of the Liberia National Police that tried a bit, have failed to take one small step to doing all this in 4 round years, myopically feeling that by ignoring people's problems and grievances this way, then she is a real iron lady, or then that she has a real nerve of steel on foot. She has gotten it all wrong now. And any attempt by her to reverse this course of hers in her government, but in a dangerously deceitful manner, to cleverly trick us into getting at us for reprisal or revenge purposes, as it is ingrained within her and her American Liberians' DNAs. The consequences will be very dire from our God Almighty, our eternal revenge and our Redeemer. That's all that we can say for now. This is how terrible and chronic our situation is in this place. That is, having been conceived, initiated, hatched, implanted, and continues to be sustained by the world superpower, dug in her heels to keep it at that, just for her imperialist and capitalist gains. It is because of this very gloomy reality that we have now honestly told the United Nations that, frankly, it is not that the issues in this place are too impossible for men to stand up to fight and resolve, or not that in these almost 200 years of Liberia's funny existence now, people haven't gotten wise up through their little education to know these gloomy issues yet, but because of the superpowers' active involvement with all of these chronic issues on a daily basis from start to end. It is what these things are becoming very difficult and impossible to solve them. Through various subtle ways, this country's problems have become very impossible to solve in the eyes of men. For example, it is common knowledge here that Liberia has never and is never an independent and sovereign state. But who dare talk against this? Who dares talk against this? Everybody, even the American Liberians themselves, know by now that as a group they are predominantly lazy, criminal, and lack every iota of independent self-governance. But ironically, the only place they know and want to be is in government. Silent not for doing what a true government is supposed to do, but for what they can manage to steal from there. And the criminal authority and power that they can get from there to enable them to keep suppressing and enslaving a huge indigenous majority. Period. That's why you're always in government, nothing else. With Liberia's current foundation built on lies, deceit and injustice, it can never experience any sustainable peace and stability, let alone economic prosperity, etc. etc. All these facts are known by people. Even those who call themselves politicians are running around for seats, for positions. They know that these chronic foundational realities, once we continue to live with them, nothing will experience. But people decide to ignore them because the superpower is part of it. And so they just take advantage of the rotten situation and enjoy the spoils. But because of America's interests, and because the current conditions must be sustained to keep her interests intact, she's doing everything behind the scenes humanly possible to keep these conditions as they are, no matter how many souls it does go against, or no matter how much blood is wasted as a result of its insistence. That's why we keep telling the United Nations to take our plenty revolutionary debates very seriously if she ever wants to record success here. After 14 round years of blood, sweat, tears, and billions of dollars expended by them to change this place. Unfortunately, America's interest here, that must keep things just as they are, is poised once more to throw all of our mighty UN's efforts in this place into the dustbin. We keep telling the United Nations that they should never overlook these assertions from us because they are well founded. That is, these assertions are well founded and well established from years of painstaking research, which have proven that while it is true that the United Nations is a proud brainchild of an American president, and that America hosts its headquarters in New York and is the biggest contributor to its financial resources, America ironically is the biggest underminer of all UN efforts all around the world, and that Liberia is about to join this list too, to be counted as one of the UN's few biggest failures ever, owing to America's deep-seated imperialist interests here. If heed is not accorded our demands now and our messages now. We want the United Nations to recall what America did to them in Somalia, for example, in 1993, what America did to them in Rwanda, for example, in 1994, what America did and continues to do to them in Iraq since 2003, what America did and continues to do in Afghanistan since 2001, and the list goes on. But before we close, let's leave you, America, with this strong caveat here, that despite the fact that you are a world superpower, you are the world's biggest economy, you are the world's largest military, or you do have the world's largest military makeup, you have some of the world's biggest and most developed cities, you have some of the world's tallest buildings and skyscrapers, many Christian denominations were born and do come from your country, etc. and etc. That God that all of us serve is so much interested in poor and defenseless people's fate and their situation, and he is prepared to go to whatever length to prove himself the most powerful on behalf or in defense of such suppressed, oppressed, and marginalized children of his. Once these children come to their senses, to start to talk and do the right things in line with his principles, to draw his attention, and proudly, God willing, this is the direction in which our planetary revolution is now leading the ever suppressed and duped people of this country right now. For these reasons, we now request you politely, or request you to politely, please put aside all of your might and sophistications and begin considering with seriousness all of our planetary revolution. All that our planetary revolution is now telling you about our country. One additional reason for which, despite any level of misfeelings or any level of bad feelings that may develop in you as a result of our bluntness in expressions or in the articulation of these issues, a development so unprecedented for what's known about the typical people of this place. You must still lend seriousness to these developments is the current timing of these ideas. So we see another additional reason why we think you should attach importance to the message from our Plain True Revolution is taking into consideration the timing of these arguments. Based upon all of these facts, please, we're saying, please take our messages seriously. Let us begin to put our country's problem under control. You are a major stakeholder. In fact, you are the biggest stakeholder. We will say here that in addition to the long string of Americanism that runs through our veins and blood, i.e. Roland Kartee and the vision bearer of this revolution and family, a DNA which, backed by God's principles or backed by a strong spiritual foundation, is responsible for all that we are now undertaking, God willing. I personally share the month of September with you as birth month. For this reason, we feel that your approach to these issues pertaining to us or initiated by us, which are even gaining more unprecedented momentum during this month of September 2017, could cause you either great joy and relief in the end by God's grace, or could end up embarrassingly or even disastrous for you, especially because of your record with the month of September, this month, that we proudly share based on eternity. To prove our point, let's then take you a little bit down memory lane to refresh you about how powerful September is in your life, in all of our lives. We will give you 3 accounts each of both the very good and proud things that happen to you, and then those very difficult or disastrous things that also happen to you, all in September, so that you can recall how monumental this month is in all of our lives, incomparable to any other month in a year. Sufficient reason why we all must now lend seriousness to any major issues coming to the fore in September. We kickstart as follows, beginning with the good news, all according to Wikipedia. So these are some of the good things that happen to you in September. We are saying we are all September people. We share natality through the month of September. And so we need to lend seriousness to one another, to our debates, to our different debates. So some of the good things that happen to the United States in the month of September, our birth month. On September 9, 1776, the United States came into existence. So we share birth right there. When the Continental Congress changed the name of the new American nation from the United Colonies, to the United States of America. On September 3, 1783, the Treaty of Paris, was signed by American patriots, including John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, and John Day, formally ending the American Revolutionary War, or the War of Independence, and thus sealing the Americans' earlier Declaration of Independence. And see, on September 17, 1787, at the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia, delegates from the existing 12 U.S. states unanimously approved the newly proposed U.S. Constitution, a powerful constitution that proudly remains in force today, after having gone through 27 nationally approved amendments to date, etc. But as we said earlier, September has also dealt America some of the deadliest blows in history, 3 of which are as follows. On September 17, 1862, the bloodiest day in U.S. military history was recorded when General Robert E. Lee and his Confederate armies were stopped at Antietam, Maryland, by General George B. McClellan and his numerically superior Union forces. By nightfall that same day, 26,000 men had been recorded as either dead, wounded, or missing. B. On September 14, 1901, 8 days after having been shot in an assassination attempt in Buffalo, New York, President William McKinley finally died of the bullet wounds. He was succeeded by Theodore Roosevelt. Thanking the biggest of all, C. September 11, 2001, when the worst terrorist attack in U.S. history occurred, as 4 large passenger jets were hijacked and then made to crash, killing nearly 3,000 persons. 4 separate teams of Middle Eastern terrorists operating from inside America boarded those morning flights, posing as passengers, then forcibly commandeered the aircraft. 2 fully filled jumbo jets, American Airlines Flight 11, carrying 92 persons, and United Airlines Flight 175, carrying 65 persons, had departed Boston for Los Angeles. Both jets were diverted by the hijackers to New York City, where they were piloted into the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center. The impact and subsequent fire caused both 110-story towers to collapse, killing 2,752 persons, including hundreds of rescue workers and people employed within those towers. In addition, United Airlines Flight 93, which had departed New York for San Francisco, and American Airlines Flight 77, which had departed Dulles in Virginia for Los Angeles, were also hijacked. Flight 77, with 64 people on board, was diverted to Washington, D.C., then piloted into the Pentagon building, killing everyone on board and 125 military personnel within the building. Flight 93, with 44 persons on board, was also diverted towards Washington, but crashed into the fields in Pennsylvania after passengers attempted to overpower the terrorists on board, etc. All in all, I personally, as a September man, just as the United States is a September nation, do wish all the best for my birthmate, the United States, this September, and all through all of our existence. But I want all these best wishes to be realized and sustained by justice, which too requires truth-telling. That's why we are exerting every effort by God's grace to see to it that all of the mess that America has caused us here in our home, those very terrible mess which God could strike them for, or strike you for, be brought to light, debated, and redressed in a very amicable way through dialogue. But if America feels that we are nothing, or if they feel that we are lying, or that we are complaining about, or what we are complaining about here against them are not anything serious, etc., and those want to kill our debates, or ignore our grievances, or suppress these worthwhile dreams of ours, apart from or ignore our grievances, or suppress these worthwhile dreams for our part of country and people, etc., then we will have no strength on our own to stop them. But they should watch out for what our Almighty God can do in defense of badly suppressed and cheated people like us in this place. Finally, to recap our position for this video or audio engagement, we say, with all due respect to you, great people of the United States of America, your very powerful government, represented here by your dynamic embassy, on whose behalf Madam Kimberly Jones spoke to us, many members of our Kartee's family, who too represent a bigger civic forum, the Plainfield Revolution, on Wednesday, April 19, 2017, in response to our 22-day peaceful protest action before your embassy here in Monrovia, politely demanding your intervention, or you to intervene in our experience of grave injustice at the hands of the government of America, Liberia, through a so-called Liberia Petroleum Refining Company, or LPRC, based upon well-founded conviction that you are the primary source of all of our problems in this country, etc. Your April 19, 2017 defense and excuse against our demand were poor, or your excuses were poor. and are just unable to hold any water. We therefore again are calling upon you to please rethink that position of yours presented by Madam Jones, that despite all of the facts that we have presented to you to back our conviction in our action, our issue placed before you is domestic and not worthy of your intervention. We want to please rethink this position, reconsider it. We strongly disagree on grounds that such position of yours, after all of our honest efforts to convince you that it is wrong, is not mutually respectful and not mutually benefiting, and you should please rethink it now. Since April 19, 2017, we have still gone ahead in more respect to furnish you with further justifications, including this current engagement, for why your intervention is very necessary and crucial in these issues. Not in any way because we want to entrap you or disrespect you, but in a sense that we now want to find lasting solutions to our country's problems by the grace of God, by pulling the bull by the horn, or by getting to the root of the issues in a very radical but still yet loving, respectful, transparent, and solution-packed manner, ways which we think are the only best alternatives now at our disposal. In this light, until you act quickly to resolve this issue between us and the LPRC, using any of the best and mutually benefiting strategies which we trust you have in abundance at your disposal, once you develop interest in what is at stake, my family, just as the millions of the other heavily oppressed and suppressed families in this country, as a result of your very poisonous imperialist foreign policies, which you implement here through your American Liberians, using an instrument called government of Liberia, my family again will keep telling you and the world over that God first, you are now responsible for our family and our revolution. For you and your GOL and LPRC will be held liable by our God and the rest of this world for any additional pains that this family will have to endure as a result of this grave injustice, as we have gravely been suffering its impact for 4+ years now, to your explicit knowledge, America. Because our proud plea into revolution springs out of this experience, which we have been counting on you since March 2014 to intervene into and bring us some relief, but to no avail. We are also entrusting into your care, security-wise, every member, interest, and activity of this revolution, as we painstakingly go about trying our best by God's grace to clean up this very dead and dirty society which your people inaugurated here in 1822, and you condescendingly continue to sustain for your economic gains on the back of our survival and forward march as a people. We will never back down, God willing, on this demand of ours that you must intervene to bring some relief to our very young family for this terrible experience that we are having at the hands of your protege. America, we are using this time again to respectfully challenge you to respond to all of what we have said here against you, to prove that superiority of yours at every level that we know of. This truly is a test of your conscience, and we call on you to cultivate a serious fear of God as we approach these issues, because He has suggested to us that He has interest in them. Thank you so much for your response, public or otherwise, to all of our claims, concerns, and positions here in an amicable and mutually benefiting manner, as we have initiated it and continue to go about it by the grace of God. For additional articles and videos related and unrelated to this track from our Playthrough Revolution, please check out links at our Facebook fan page at https://web.facebook.com/Playthrough2013, or go to YouTube. Note, please listen out to get our YouTube address anytime later from any of our articles. Or better still, you just can Google out any infested articles of ours by name. Thank you so much. Thank you.